My first night, I thought like this definitely has to be the biggest mistake of my life. Clearly because I landed in winter, and I remember like landing, and I was looking at the roofs, and everything was just white, and it had no beauty to it, bro. Like no beauty to it. So I'm like, this definitely has to be like what is this place? Is it like some village or something? But on landing, it takes a whole different shape.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to leave behind every single thing you know and start a new life in a foreign country? From my experience, it can be a struggle. On the Newcomers Podcast, I'll be sharing my story as well as the stories of other immigrants. We'll be talking about the joys and struggles of starting afresh. My name is Dozier, and I'm looking forward to being your host. So today we're talking to Dapo Ajeniya, who's been in Canada for the past 3-4 years. Is it 3 or 4 now?
3 years now.
Oh, wow. The time flies. And so today we'll be talking about everything about settling in and all he has learned so far. Thank you for joining us, Dapo. I guess we can just start off with, just introduce yourself like a bit, like a short one, not too long, I guess.
Dapo, like you said, 3 years in Canada. I came in just before COVID hit and changed the whole world. And retired Nigerian, almost retired Nigerian. Yeah, that's me. That's me, really. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to come back to the retired Nigerian bit in a bit. But I think I'll start off with just asking I call this the first question, because you actually came in at a very interesting time just before COVID started. So it'd be good to just talk about like what was the first night like when you moved from Nigeria, when you landed here?
But my first night, I thought like this definitely has to be the biggest mistake of my life. Clearly because I landed in winter, and I'd been in Dubai for a bit before actually coming here. I was visiting in Dubai for quite a bit before we actually flew in as the family. And I remember like landing, and I was looking at the roofs, and everything was just white. And it had no beauty to it, bro. Like no beauty to it. So I'm like, this definitely has to be like what is this place? Is it like some village or something? But on landing, it takes a whole different shape. Like just beneath all of that snow cape is a different scene entirely, So that first night was a lot. I remember I visited with my sisters, and we just sat over drinks, ate. They welcomed me and the family, and it was a lot that I was trying to take in. I couldn't drink the water. Imagine,
why?
I couldn't drink the water. The Lagos boy, I couldn't drink the water. I don't know what it was. It just, sometimes you just get used to like Lagos and Nigeria in such a way that you don't know. It's the little things that hit you. Like I've been in several places, but this was the first time that I got to a place and I'm like, the water tastes different. Well, water tastes different everywhere. And you adapt. But this one, like on the first day, I'm like, bring the juice or bring something else. Nothing. But so far it's been good, to be honest. It's been good. Yeah. But that was my first night. Yeah. That was my first night. Yeah.
And did you still feel that same way like after the first week? Like, after 1 week of just moving around, did you still have that feeling of what the heck, this is the biggest mistake I've made in my life or something?
So for me, there was a long hangover. I think for my family, they had zero hangover. So before I left Nigeria, I was kind of like building a brand. I was trying to settle my business the way we were doing a few things, and it looked like we were going somewhere with it. So a lot of my hangover stemmed from that. I kept feeling like I've left things half done, right? So I didn't really a lot of people already have their minds made up before they make the journey. For me, it was more like we're gonna test the waters. But in that hangover, again, like I said, I came in just before COVID, and a few months later, the world was on lockdown. The good thing with that, though, was it allowed me to cold turkey, if I can use that word. So I literally cold turkey Nigeria out of my system. In that hangover, I was here and I was like, you know what? You're missing out on all the positives that is right here. You're not taking it all in. You're being focused on your past, like just look around. Like in terms of beauty and everything, like everywhere was beautiful. Like, it's a nice burgeoning city that I'm in. So in that regard, it looked like it was happening. But because of how I left Nigeria, for me in particular, it was like, you need to go back. Oh, now you cannot go back. Like everyone's on lockdown, right? So can you take stock? So in doing my cold turkey, I took stock like, this Nigeria you keep hammering about, like, and I thought you did business analysis and stuff like that. You just analyze this stuff and tell yourself the truth. And I think it was that point that I was like, you know what? I miss community, I miss food and things like that, hanging out. But I'm not missing out in terms of my personal development, in terms of growth, which was very, very important too at the time. So. My family, my kids were not. They, like I said, I was the only one hungover. They came in and the next day they're like, "Well, we're here now and we stay." Yeah.
Do you think, like, just from thinking about the other people around you who have settled in, do you think that's the same thing that happens to them? Just having the kids just come in and just go with the flow, and then the adults, especially those of us who spend quite a while in our home countries before coming out, take some time just trying to adjust, saying, did I make the right move?
Yeah, I think definitely, like, there are a lot of pressures on adults. The more you start to build in Nigeria, the less nimble you are. I used to be a very nimble person, in my mind at least, but the moment you get married, you start having kids, you're not as nimble, like you want to move, but it's not so easy. So you worry. All the anxiety and tension comes mainly from that, right? So I think a lot of people arrive, and some are already made up on their minds that we're going here. They're settled in that, but it still doesn't take away the initial tension of, who are my first set of friends going to be? Like, where's my church going to be for those who do that? Like, for those who play soccer, where are my guys that I'm going to play soccer with? My Friday night, where's the Suya spot? Like, there's so many questions and very little answers, And when you arrive in Canada, for example, or in Calgary, Canada, where I'm at, I don't think it's not London, UK. Because London, UK, I feel like you can almost land in London, UK, and you don't miss a beat. Like, it's almost like you just like you're moving from one nightclub on the island to another one, just across. It's like you don't miss anything. But when you come to Calgary, Canada, when I arrived, and I can imagine for those that have arrived like 10 years before me, so you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? Where are all the things I'm used to? But the kids are so like, I'm looking for the right word, but I feel like the kids are so, it's like them living their dreams. I hate to say that, but it's like them living their dreams, because the moment they arrive, it's like you just put them in like a leisure park. And who is a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 9-year-old, or 10 that is going to get to be in a leisure park and be like, it's time to go home? They're having fun. They're okay. I think like many Nigerians, and I hate to use this word again, I think that in many cases we also have, or many newcomers to new places. There's Stockholm syndrome that that we hold on to, and it's not just about because of the negative stuff that we have in some of the places that we come from. It's also because it's just like what we've gotten used to. So just rediscovering taste in a new way and finding ourselves can be a bit challenging. But I think that once you open up your mind and tell yourself, I want to build a future anew, then it's easy. People have been moving around for centuries.
Humans are, yeah.
We've been moving around for centuries. Like, I went to a place in Banff this summer of my first year. It's like this mountainous region here that is always snow-capped even during summer and everything. It's very beautiful. And they have like all these lakes that surround the place, and they have hills around it, and people live there. And they show me stuff of people who lived here 200 years ago. Like, I'm arriving there, I'm well layered, well covered. I don't feel the cold and all of it, but I'm thinking 150 years ago, some guy got up from wherever he was and walked all the way here, passed through all these lakes and stuff, and climbed these hills and settled here. Like, I need that brand of whatever Igbo Ashari.
They were taking that.
Because I don't know how you do that. So it's not, when you think like that, then you realize that, man, this is not hard. This is not really hard. Those guys had it rough. This is not hard at all.
Yeah. It's the thing. Things are pretty much easier now. I mean, we still have all the things we have to deal with now, but I feel like the world's a bit more interesting and more easier to navigate than it was 200 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just staying on the topic of the fear of starting over, let's talk about the kids. Like, how is it for the kids settling in, especially the much older ones? Because I feel like different curriculum, different culture. I mean, kids will be kids and they will always just play and stuff. So
definitely had it. We had two girls. The older one, I would say, had a bit of a challenge, like coming in. So first thing is you find out that everything you've done, you need to reset, basically. Because they came in at 6 and 4. And I think school starts here at 5. So they had to go back like 1 or 2 grades. Just because that's how school is set up here. Like back in Nigeria, for example, kids go to school once you're ready for them to go. Like once they're 1 or 2, they start going somewhere. They leave home.
Yeah.
Right? But here, if they're not 5, independent, and able to tie the lace on their shoes, remove the shoes, remove the jackets and stuff, no, you stay at home. You stay at home. So it's different from that perspective. The kids are way more independent. The kids here are way more independent in terms of how to live. So that was something that my kids had to try and adjust to when they came in, particularly the older one. Also making new friends. And in terms of like culture, right, and that ugly word race, we come from a place that is rather monotone. Like everyone looks the same. And then we dropping you in like it's not even dual tone, it's multi-tone. We drop these girls, they're 6 years old and 4, and we drop you in this place, and everybody looks different. They almost even sound different. In fact, they sound different because there are people from all over. Like you're talking to like a Russian who's just moved here, someone from Philippines, India. Think of it, anywhere, Switzerland, everybody shows up, right? So, and they're dealing with all of this, and they're trying to find themselves as well. So that part can be challenging for the kids when they show up. So, but the key, I think, is to quickly latch on as a parent. Like you want to be on top of these things. You want to know that these things are happening even before like they bring it to you, right? So you can help them navigate that whole process. Every day is it's a new uncovering, I would say. Also, like the style of instruction, the teaching is a major difference. Like we instruct, like back home we instruct, and you either ship up or you ship out. Here it's almost like we let you discover. We allow you your discovery time. So for someone who's been so used to being told what to do, to get into an environment where you're told that you should know what you should do, they're very two extremes. Like this takes a lot of self-discipline. Back home, the discipline you will be given, whether you like it or not. This you will have to figure out how to discipline yourself and know that, okay, this is time for work and I need to do what I need to do. Yeah. Even as adults at the workplace, it's a major shift in how things are done.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think just still staying on the kids, and so can you tell me what's the biggest difference for you in terms of parenting now and parenting when you're in Nigeria?
Oh, parenting in Nigeria, the kids are guarded. Like again, like I said, from being a very monotone society, like we all kind of move in one, not necessarily say everyone's in one direction, but you can pretty much map out like their experiences on a daily basis. Like I could leave my kids with friends and their kids back home, and I could imagine what their experiences and conversations would be. Here it can be very different, depending on who and what day that interaction is happening. It can take so many dimensions, and there's a lot to uncover. There's also a lot to, there's a lot of measured conversations too, So especially in this day and age, like back home, you could pretty much say anything to anyone and it would be a joke. Like you have to teach your kids early. You don't want to abuse people in your interactions. It's not acceptable behavior, So that's something that comes up. I mean, it comes up with in every society in one way or the other, but it's more pronounced here because everyone is slightly different. So our reaction to conversations can be very different. Even our understanding of the language that we all use can be very different. You understand? So everybody has the various nuances and things like that they have. So just navigating that can be a bit of a challenge. So I think that those are some of the conversations that we've had to have early. I remember we started talking about, I didn't think I would have sex education with my kids for a long time. I didn't think we would ever broach that subject. But we got here and the conversation had to happen pretty fast. Just to be aware. And we're having that conversation and I'm realizing that I didn't get this kind of conversation growing up. I didn't, and even if I ever did, it would have been a one-time conversation that, you know what you should do, boy, and you should do what you should do, and that's it. But I can see that this is an ongoing conversation that needs to be had every time. We have to take refreshers, just because there's a lot happening on the outside.
Yeah.
So, this makes you more in tune. Like you're more in tune to whatever is happening with the kids. Well, I hope that you're more in tune to whatever is happening with the kids. Because a lot is happening, and they're sponges, right? So they're soaking all of it. So if there isn't some form of guidance or some form of preparation for them, then I don't know what the results of that will be. But I know that in my case, I know that I'm doing so much to prepare them and to have conversations with them that ordinarily I don't think I would have to have. Like back home, I would imagine that just like the social structures that we have, like maybe they go to school or they go to church, or even in their conversations with their friends, they can figure out the values that are acceptable societal values for them to take on. But here, there's so much liberty also, right? So there's so much that is happening. So you want to guide them to be able to make their own decisions, right? But you also want to let them start from a position of the familiar, and then maybe they can find something else or whatever it is. I don't know if I explained or if I.
No, I think I like
question in particular, but
yeah, I think it's not really a question. It's more of a perspective. I don't know if there's a real answer to it. I think it's more of like every parent has their perspective. I guess that's how I look at it, and then you just mold your kids around the perspective you have. And I was just going to ask, building on that question, that you think it's a function because you mentioned something about independence, society. Like I feel like social structure here is very built around independence from a very early age, and it continues even to how as the child grows older, and how the society sets you up as you grow older. And I just wonder if you think that, when you talk about having those conversations earlier here than if you're in Nigeria, whether all those things stem from how the social structure is set up, and you expect that you sort of know somehow that, look, I need to start having these conversations early, or else, because there's so much independence within the structure and it encourages the child to be independent, then that conversation is taken away from you because the society kind of encourages the child to, experience that by yourself, or find your answer, and then or else you have to get in there early, or else it's out of your control.
Like so many things. So I got married just as I was hitting my teens. That was when I got married. So this is personal experience now.
Yeah.
But I noticed that almost all my peers that I went to high school with that left after high school to study abroad, or I noticed that a significant number or a significant percentage, for example, got married by their mid-20s, right? And I'm talking more of the guys now.
Yeah.
And I was back in Nigeria, and I don't know whether I'm right or if my numbers are right, but it almost felt impossible for me to even have considered getting married at 25.
Yeah.
So like, why my kids are like,
same here.
Yeah. So like, why my kids are like 6, 8, thereabout, their kids are done with high school right now. They're going to uni, right? Because they started that journey early. Then it didn't make sense to me. Now it does. Because then I wasn't living, I lived abroad, but I went back to Nigeria. But now, because I'm living permanently, it kind of makes sense to me. I see why they had to get married at that time. Because technically, the kids are like from age 18, they're ready to live their lives.
Yeah.
At 15, independence already starts. They start earning cash. At 15, 14, there are a significant number of kids that can live on their own, right? At 15. Why? Because you then make a decision to, am I doing anything after high school or am I going for university? If you're not, well, what it means is that at 16, you're out of your parents' home. You're going either to university or you're working actively to say, I can earn enough money, I can stay on my own. But you still have that latitude between 16 and 18 to fully make that decision on what you want to do. But what is clear is that at 18, you become a decision-making being. You're like the CEO of your life. You're giving directions. Like I have older people in my peer group back home that cannot make decisions on their own. They have to deflect to their parents. Here, the kids are gonna, that, they come back to you for referencing, but you cannot be the one making the decisions anymore. And that starts early.
Yeah.
Like if a child cannot go to school until they know how to tie a shoelace by themselves, and because they go to school, they're layered up, they have like 3-4 sets of clothing on, they have to sit for classes, they have to first literally almost undress and hang all of that, and then now sit for instruction. And then when they're done with that, they want to go out on break time, they have to dress up again. The teacher is not going to chaperone like 25 kids.
Yeah.
During a 15-minute break time to be like, oh, go lay her up. Go wear your shoes. Oh, change into your boots. They're not going to do that. So the kids start learning all of this stuff at a very early age. You go to the store, right? The neighborhood store. And whereas everybody everywhere has like a cart that you push and you can do your shopping, they have carts for kids to shop. It's a very little thing, but you kind of see like the kids are being trained to shop from age 5. Like they're pushing their cart. The parents are pushing. The 5-year-old is pushing his own. And they're thinking like, okay, I want bananas. They drop it in there. I want chocolate. They drop it in. And some parents will go as far as saying, you have an allowance. This is what you can buy. This is the amount of sweets you can buy. You have to buy some natural foods. And if you go close, you see a lot of this stuff. And you start thinking, man, no. When I went shopping with my mom, I was just miserable throughout the trip. I was just supposed to be miserable, but not show it. The only time I was excited was when I realized, okay, she's got me something, But here, the kids are being taught to, like, do their shopping. Like, I go into the mall to do groceries. I go into the store to do groceries recently. I see some kids that maybe, like, 12, there are 3 of them, maybe, like, between, like, 12 ranging to about 15. They were all by themselves, and they were shopping for their family, or maybe for themselves, because they had, like, 2 carts that they were pushing. Like, I don't know of any 12-year-old that is not disadvantaged, that has to think about, I need to go and learn how to shop. And that's a major life skill, right? It is a life surviving skill, I think. Again, life hits you faster.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And it probably also means that if you do the numbers in an economic way, it probably means that the human is more productive for a longer period of time. Because if you start life at 18 and you finish at 65, as against someone that starts life at 25 and finishes at 60 or 65, you can see who is going to be more productive.
Yeah. So,
or who has to do more.
So that's really good.
I'm going to inside into my thoughts. Yeah, sorry about that.
Totally agree with you. No, that's really fair. I mean, that's really good, and I totally agree because it's a small thing, but that it reminds me of think it was James Clear that has this quote about 1% every day. Kind of comes out to it's not actually, it compounds, and by the end of the year, the difference is not 1%. The difference is literally way over 1%. And I feel like it's these small things. They all come together, and then when the kid is all grown up, it's a pretty different kid. And then it just kind of going back to how I started the conversation. I think it also shows in how you now have to decide that when you look at all those things, you have to decide early that, okay, I need to play my part early and get into these conversations early. Sex education, working hard, delayed gratification, all those conversations. You start it early, because if you don't, the kid is out of your house, but the kid is actually on their own by the time they're 15, 16. And if you haven't done it by then you're playing a losing game at that point in time. You're now dealing with this full society at that point in time.
Yeah. Remember how, like when we read about, like, all these business success stories that are like, oh, they kind of like, they left Harvard, and then they went to go and do a startup, and then it blew up. It's a multi-billion. And it's inconceivable, because they're 18 years old, 19 years old. They're deciding to leave one of the most prestigious institutions on the face of the earth to go and pursue their own ideas. Like, no, this is an institution that a father like me paid for. Then the child decides that I have found a passion, or I have found an idea, or a startup, or something, and I feel like I need to go do that. I mean, we all celebrate the success of it, but we don't realize the kind of independent-mindedness that is required from a very early age for someone to be able to make that decision at that time. Right? Because they're not going to just wake up and decide at 18 that this is the pattern. It's going to be the character that they built based off of their habits over a decade long. So that's what manifests at that time. And those are just some of, like, that's how fast life comes here. It's how fast life comes here.
Yeah. Comes really fast. It comes really fast, man. Comes really fast. So at this point, I think we've really had a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much, Daps. This has been really good. Honestly, I had a lot of questions, but I felt like we really had a really honest, unfiltered conversation about just settling and getting going here. So thank you everyone for dialing in and listening. This was good. Thank you, Daps. Thank you for doing this. You're the first guest on the Newcomers.
So it's not this, it's this. Thanks for having me.
You're the first guest. Yeah, let me do a drum roll. Like, honestly, you're the first guest. All right, man. Thanks you so much.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thanks, man.